Number 7. Brett Kaos Pechey. 34-year-old Brett Pechey, a notorious ex-biker, was taken into custody by Western Australian police on the morning of June the 26th of 2020. He served as a high-ranking member of the Bandidos motorcycle gang for many years, during the course of which he engaged in a variety of criminal activities that led to his arrest on multiple occasions. This particular incident began on June the 24th when Pechey, nicknamed Kaos during his gangster days, threatened 2 officers, issuing him a police order. The order was connected to a domestic violence incident involving his ex-girlfriend, Ricky Louise. Pechey imitated the cocking of a firearm and pretended to point a gun in the policeman's direction. The authorities' concern over the mock threat intensified after a video surfaced in which Pechey said the phrase "coppers died today" with a shotgun placed beside him. Heavily armed tactical response officers subsequently made their way to Pechey's residence to arrest him. They surrounded his property and used a loudspeaker to demand he exit the house. He eventually came outside and gave himself up without incident. A number of charges were handed down, including threatening to kill, possessing a firearm in circumstances of aggravation, and various police order breaches. The whole situation concluded with him being put behind bars for a year. It wasn't the first time Pechey had been arrested in dramatic fashion. In 2018, 26 police officers surrounded his house while he was barricaded inside, videotaping the standoff. Just a few years earlier, the outlaw biker was arrested at Brisbane International Airport over extortion charges after being on the run for 2 years. Number 6. Liam Scorsese. On February the 25th of 2018, a domestic dispute involving a member of the Comanchero Motorcycle Club ultimately led to a deadly police shooting in Brisbane, Australia. 31-year-old biker Liam Scorsese attempted to enter his girlfriend's family residence in a fit of rage after the couple had engaged in a heated argument. He had been locked out of the house and subsequently started banging on the door, shouting for his partner, Shirez Beitel, to come out. Beitel and the rest of her family barricaded themselves inside the home and called the police. When the authorities showed up at the scene, they found Scorsese wielding a knife he had stolen from the kitchen. With the weapon in hand, he began to approach the officers, who instructed him to drop the blade and get on the ground. Scorsese refused to heed their instructions, prompting the police to fire a taser at his chest, which did little to subdue him. Scorsese ripped the taser wires from his body and resumed charging the officers. In fear for his and his partner's lives, one of the policemen brandished his gun and fired 2 shots at the biker, causing him to fall to the ground. The officers administered first aid until an ambulance arrived to transport him to Princess Alexandra Hospital. He passed away from his gunshot wounds an hour later. Beitel complained that the police officers dispatched to her house that day had neglected to turn on their body cameras prior to shooting Scorsese. After an inquest into the incident, a coroner suggested officers be equipped with body cams that are automatically activated once their guns are drawn. Number 5. Dustin Lindner. A man was shot and killed in DuPont, Indiana by a group of 5 bikers belonging to outlaw motorcycle clubs. On June the 22nd of 2021, the victim was 35-year-old Dustin Lindner of Georgetown, Kentucky, who had gotten into an argument with the 5 suspects after wearing the insignias associated with their gangs, the Pagans and the Warlocks, despite the fact that he wasn't a member of either group. The bikers in question were later identified as David Faulkner, Gary Fletcher, Jason Brewer, Michael Carnuth and Jordan Lowe. After confronting Lindner and expressing their displeasure with his tattoos and patches bearing their symbols, they went to his residence in the early morning hours and conducted a home invasion. Police received reports of shots fired shortly thereafter. When officers arrived at the scene, they found Lindner lying in the yard with a gunshot wound. He had been shot dead following an altercation with the 5 bikers, all of whom were apprehended in connection with the incident. Faulkner, Fletcher, Brewer, and Carnuth were each charged with murder, while Lowe received lesser indictments. Number 4. Michael Davey. An associate of the Rebels motorcycle gang was shot dead in a residential driveway in Kingswood, Australia on March the 30th of 2016. Michael Davey, aged 30, was an enforcer for the infamous Outlaw Club and had earned himself the nickname Ruthless. He had a criminal history that included a manslaughter conviction in 2002 when he was just 17 years of age. Despite his checkered past, Davey was looking to escape the violent world of which he was a part after his girlfriend had given birth to a son. Just after midnight on the night of his death, Davey told his girlfriend he was meeting a friend across the street from where they lived. When he walked to the neighboring driveway, he was shot and killed by 2 fellow rebel members who fled the scene in a getaway car. Witnesses recounted hearing as many as 6 gunshots, followed by the sound of screeching tires. The shooters had reportedly turned on Davey after word got out that he no longer wanted to be associated with the club. The slain motorcyclist was laid to rest in Western Sydney on April the 8th of 2016. The funeral ceremony was attended by dozens of bikers from all over Australia. In August of 2018, the 2 perpetrators were identified by the authorities and charged with Davey's murder. They were both already in correctional facilities for other offences when the charges were handed down. Number 3. Jeremy Harris. A 38-year-old Florida man named Jeremy Harris was brutally attacked by a group of angry bikers after accidentally clipping one of their vehicles on January the 9th of 2021. Harris came to an intersection in North Fort Myers that was being blockaded by motorcyclists. He began to berate the stationary bikers for stopping the flow of traffic, just so the rest of their group could skip the red light. Harris then attempted to drive away but came very close to knocking one of the riders off his bike. The bikers then pursued him and surrounded his car at a stoplight. Harris exited his vehicle with a wrench in hand and tried to protect himself, but he was ultimately overpowered by the enraged bikers, who proceeded to viciously beat and bludgeon him with the tool. Horrified onlookers attempted to break up the altercation, but the attackers continued their assault. Harris's skull was fractured during the onslaught and he required 15 stitches in his head. Multiple suspects were arrested following the incident and charged with felony battery. Today's topic was requested by Charlotte Tilson, Mick Spears, and Brentley27. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Ben Geppert. In September of 2020, an ex-Hells Angel by the name of Ben Geppert invaded the home of a 26-year-old man from Broadbeach Waters, Australia, and attacked him with a baseball bat over a drug dispute. Geppert, age 29, had sold the victim $1,500 worth of illegal substances a month prior to the incident, but he was reportedly only given $1,000 in payment. The biker demanded the money he was owed, but on the other side of the argument, the man claimed the drugs he'd been sold were fake. As he continually refused to pay, Geppert texted him a picture of a gun before arriving at his house and beating him to a pulp in his front yard before the eyes of terrified bystanders. At around 11 p.m. that same night, Geppert returned to the man's residence and broke in, armed with a baseball bat, which he used to club the man's head. The resulting injuries required 12 stitches to mend. The very next day, Geppert returned once again and forced the man to accompany him to get a Rolex watch appraised. The biker was subsequently arrested following a rooftop chase with police officers in the town of Kingscliff. In August of 2021, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison for the home invasion and assault. The charges were added to the extensive list of Geppert's past offenses. He was also featured in our Hells Angel video regarding an incident in which he'd attacked his girlfriend who, fearing for her life, was forced to jump out of a moving car. He also appeared in a viral video produced by the Queensland Police Service, which aimed at stopping new recruits from joining outlawed gangs. Number 1. The 2015 WACO Shootout. A violent shootout between rival motorcycle gangs erupted in Waco, Texas on May the 17th of 2015. More than 200 people were gathered inside a Twin Peaks restaurant for a regional meeting of Texas's statewide biker group coalition. The main topics on the gathering's agenda were centered on political rights for motorcyclists. 18 Waco police officers and 4 Texas state troopers were stationed outside the establishment to monitor the gathering, which had initially started out peacefully. Tensions began to rise between 2 clubs present at the event, the Bandidos and the Cossacks. The incident that reportedly set off the conflict involved someone getting their foot run over in a parking spot just after noon. By 12:24 p.m., the argument had escalated into an all-out gunfight. Patrons of nearby restaurants ducked for cover under tables and behind cars as gunshots started flying from all sides. The police soon returned fire after being shot at themselves, but no civilians or law enforcement officers were wounded during the incident. However, 9 bikers were killed at the scene and 18 others were injured. Police snipers were able to target the armed suspects and bring an end to the gunfire. In the aftermath of the shootout, a total of 177 people were arrested and detained by the authorities, but only one of them was ever brought to trial. Jake Carazal, president of the Bandidos Dallas chapter, was tried for his involvement in the deadly episode, but his case was ultimately thrown out due to a mistrial. By April of 2019, all of the criminal cases stemming from the WACO shootout had been dismissed. More than 130 civil lawsuits were subsequently filed against various state and local officials by many of the bikers involved in the mass arrest. Thanks for watching. Would you rather accidentally crash into a biker's motorcycle or a police officer's patrol car? Let us know in the comments section below.